April 5th, and if you're watching live, then it's Tuesday, April 5th. Yeah, I did that backwards. Sorry, Moses. So my name is Sherry, and I am here at the Willamette Falls Media Center doing progressive talk radio on TV. It should be 8 p.m. where you are. It is where I am, so we're on the same page. Tonight I have an awesome guest. His name is Mike Gardner, and he is a local from the area, and I'm so honored to have him speak with us. And I'm going to actually do a little bit of a monologue first, but why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, right now I'm a local activist. I'm a Oregon City PCP, which is at Clackamas County Democratic Party of Oregon. I'm a delegate to the Democratic Party of Oregon.
Wow, nice.
For the State Central Committee. I'm also a delegate for the CD3, and I'm on the executive committee for the Clackamas County Democratic Party of Oregon.
See, I didn't know any of that. You have a lot to say then.
Well, I've been doing a lot of things. 2 weeks ago, we had our first quarter State Central Committee for the Democratic Party of Oregon down in Roseburg, and
Wow.
I got to ride down with Mark Gamba, the mayor of Milwaukee.
Yes,
and
he's
that was
fabulous.
A lot of fun. Oh man, a brilliant man, and he's running for Oregon Congress District 41
Again,
this year.
yeah, because I
District
think
41.
Didn't he run for that last year?
No, he didn't. This is
Oh.
his first time running for a state district like
Oh.
that. Last time he
Oh.
ran, it was for CD5 against Kurt Schrader in the primaries.
That's right. That's right.
Now we
Okay.
have. Now we have
What's her name? The lady, I just saw her the other
Jamie.
day. Jamie, yeah. Jamie
McLeod Skinner. Jamie
yeah.
McLeod Skinner. Yeah, she's terrific. She's wonderful. So,
Yeah. And I saw Kurt Schrader's commercial saying that he's fighting to get big money out of politics and stuff, and
Well, that's a
we're going
lie.
to talk about that. It is, because he is big money in politics.
Yeah, that's a
So what I wanted to tell you today is Judge Brown is going to be confirmed. It's almost totally done that they're looking for a vote on Thursday, and I was practicing her name on my way down here, Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Nice.
I think that's it. And so I'm horrible with names. And it looks like I saw earlier today that President Zelensky addressed the UN once again. And he showed videos, and there's print screens that I really want to take of him actually in action as a leader in his nation. I have so much respect for that man and the people in that country. The refugees there's some hideous stories coming out from refugees and stuff. So Patrick Starnes is still working on his campaign for campaign finance reform. I recently did a video for him. I'm not sure if we'll have it seen or not, but it is on the Progressive Talk Radio on TV on YouTube. So go there, and it's campaign finance reform with Patrick Starnes, and he's plugging along. I wasn't too sure about him when I first met him. Sorry, Patrick, but he has my ultimate respect. That man is a bulldog, and he's going to get it done. He has made some significant discussions with people in high places, except for Phil Knight, apparently, because Phil Knight just donated $750,000 to Betsy Johnson's campaign, and I'm a Democrat, independent, progressive, whatever, and normally, if it weren't for some of her policies, I might vote for her, but especially not now. She accepted that. And there's no way. And KATU was going to regulate that the Democratic candidates have $750,000 minimum in their bank account before they could participate in a Democratic debate at KATU, who did one with the Republicans. But that didn't happen, and Patrick has some to do with that. So yay! And there's another one coming on. There's in Sun River. There's a Democratic summit that Patrick is looking at getting involved in, and you have to have raised $35,000 and have a bank account at this bank, and you have to. It's a bunch of more reasonable requirements for them. And I would like to talk with you about the PCP and getting more involved in that level of Oregon state government. It's all
you should do
hogwash
that.
to me right now because
You're
I don't
not a
know.
PCP? We can
No.
get you signed up.
So I will actually need to be talking with you about that in the future because it's something that we need to do. If we're going to be activists, we need to be involved, and I have slacked on that. So I am going to give it to Mr. Mike Gardner to tell us about his campaign finance reform ideas and the PCP, and it's all on you, man.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate it. This is a really great opportunity. Like I said, I just came back from the first quarter State Central Committee for the Democratic Party of Oregon down in Roseburg, and I got to ride down with Mark Gamba, the mayor of Milwaukee, who's running for the Oregon State Legislature in District 41. So shout out to Mark Gamba out there. Basically, but about PCPs, PCPs is the lowest level of government that you can, it's the most activist grassroots level you can get. Every county has a certain number of PCPs representing a certain number of people in every district. And you can get on the ballot in the May primaries. My name will be on the ballot. My mom's name will be on the ballot.
Oh, wow.
My mom is a PCP. And PCPs in counties get to vote for resolutions. They get to vote for officers for the county party and for delegates to the state Democratic Party of Oregon. And of course, the state Democratic Party of Oregon obviously sends delegates to the national, to the DNC. We've got a guy, a wonderful person, Travis Nelson. He's a working nurse. He's also running for Congress, and he's also the Oregon Democratic Party representative to the DNC in Washington.
Wow.
So, we've got a lot of opportunities here for people to get involved at the grassroots level. But like I say, it starts at that PCP level, and you get out there and, you knock on doors and you get involved. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. So what is your main focus right now?
Well, right now we've got all these campaigns going on at the moment, and I know that I know people, great candidates that are running in districts that aren't going to be on my ballot, like Charles Gallia, who's running in Congress, who was running for Senate last time in Oregon District 20, and now he's running for a congressional seat. You've got Mark Gamba running, but in our district, right here in Oregon City, the most important candidate, the most important job right now is our congressman in Washington, our representative to Washington. We have to vote for Jamie McLeod Skinner.
Okay.
I mean, Kurt Schrader has been lying. His TV commercials have been incredibly disingenuous. He's been claiming that he's been trying to fight against high drug costs. He's been claiming that he's been trying to fight against big money in campaigns, and he has done exactly the opposite. He's taken money from drug companies, thousands and thousands of dollars, and he has done nothing to do anything about campaign finance reform. He's barely done anything progressive at all, other than, he votes with the Democrats when it comes to important issues like adjourning meetings and things. But he doesn't really go out on a limb for health
No,
care.
he usually goes along with the Republicans from what I've been able to see.
This is one of our last county, the Democratic Party Clackamas County meets monthly for its central committee meeting, and one of the last ones that we've had in person. We haven't had a lot in person because of the COVID. We've had Zoom meetings, but one of the last ones in person where Kurt Schrader actually showed up, he was asked the question about health care, and he started to talk about how we need to go ahead and just fix Obamacare and we didn't need Medicare for all. And one of our PCPs, a nurse named Kat Stone, she got up and she asked all the PCPs there, and the room was filled. It was up at the Union Hall up there on Warner Milne. And she said, all right, how many here think that all we need to do is just raise, fix Obamacare a little bit and just kind of peck around the edges, like Kurt Schrader said. 3 people out of 200 raised their hands.
Wow.
3 people. And then they said, well, how many people think we need improved Medicare for all? Everybody raised their hands. Yeah. And it was just like, yes. And so Kurt Schrader, he decided it was a good time to take off. He realized he was in the wrong room. I mean, these were the grassroots Democratic Party of Clackamas County. These were the people that he needs. But he decided that they weren't his people. He's more comfortable with Rotary clubs and Chamber of Commerce, people with the big money, the donors and stuff. He was not comfortable in the grassroots, so he left. He left that meeting.
So what if the grassroots talked to the Chamber? Talked to the Rotaries? Talked with the people with the money?
To what end? I mean, we're at cross purposes.
How?
The people with the money like the system the way it is.
Because they don't know of anything else?
Well, no,
or
because
they're
it works
scared?
no, because it works for them.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, if you're in healthcare.
Well, no, I mean, it just if the status quo is working for you, why change it?
So I would venture to ask them, what about the status quo are you happy about? Because I've heard people say, oh, I'm happy with my insurance, especially union people and stuff. And my full disclosure, my husband does work for a union and our insurance is okay. But I've been without insurance. I've had cruddy jobs with no insurance. I've had decent jobs with okay insurance. And having that background, insurance is not okay.
Right.
Because they're the middleman, and there has been lawsuits where insurance company executives, previous executives, have told Congress that they earned bonuses if they denied enough claims.
Well, right, and so basically, you've got a guy who's denying claims, who's making $50 million a year.
Yes.
And you could just as easily have a guy down in Salem making $50,000 a year shuffle papers and deny claims if he wanted to. But they probably wouldn't be denying claims.
No,
and it would be a lot
because it's
cheaper.
part of our taxes
Yeah.
and we are entitled. Do you know, there was a woman the other day, she asked me, I'm occasionally on these Facebook things, right? And she said, so essentially what you're telling me is you want the government to take care of all of your basic needs. And I said, that's why I pay taxes.
Well,
I mean, for education, for healthcare, for pursuit of happiness in our, Bill of Rights and Constitution, Declaration of Independence, all of our founding documents, the pursuit of happiness, why else do we pay taxes?
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, way back in the 90s, I found out about like the Tom Hartman show and everything. And the discussion always comes down to, we can't have 100% public control of everything, and we can't have 100% private control.
No.
We don't want the Reagan privatization
No.
of everything. It's what they call the commons. There's some things that are the commons. Healthcare should be commons, water, electricity, education, certain things that are part of the commons, that we really need to not be tied to, commerce and profit. I mean, it's just, it's too expensive to let, to pay for billionaires to run our healthcare system when all they're doing is shuffling papers that a $50,000 a year bureaucrat in Salem can shuffle papers just as well as a $50 million oligarch.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So how do you convince people that their insurance company are not looking out for their best interests?
Well, you really can't. I mean, you have to go by the, I mean, you have to go by the money and say, like, look, let's assume that they are looking out for your best interests. Let's just say, for argument, that they are. How much is it costing you? How much is it costing you out of pocket? How much is your employer paying? How much is your part? Because most employers only pay a portion,
Yep.
and the employee has to pay the rest.
Yep.
Now, if you add all that stuff up that's coming from your employer and you and out of pocket, and if that comes out to be X number, of thousands of dollars, and the money that you would end up paying in taxes would be a fifth of that, and you'd be getting the same service. I mean, I think you
That's
would probably
common
convince
sense.
people that you could say, okay, would you be happier to pay 1/5 of what you're paying now
Right.
in taxes compared
For
to
the same,
everything you're
if not
paying for all
better.
the other stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just that we're not getting bang for the buck because we're financing the lifestyles of the rich and famous,
Yep.
and we're not really buying health care. Like Walter Cronkite had that great saying that back in the 72, I think it was. He said that American healthcare system, it's first of all, it's not healthy, it's not a system, and it doesn't care.
Right, that's a fact. Yeah.
So it's not even worth even messing with. It's
Right.
just scrap it.
Yes.
I mean, do what every other country in this earth is doing, and get the profit motive out of it, because the profit motive is killing people.
Yeah, and that's where it all comes down across the board where our government is concerned. It's so as far as the homelessness thing here, and I was thinking about I'm talking about the stuff that I was thinking about on my way in, and back in the 90s, there's a show on KGW right now called The Story, or the
Channel 8?
yeah, on Channel 8.
Okay,
I think it's The Story, the news story, or it used to be The Story with Dan Haggerty.
Okay.
And I really liked it when Dan was on it, and Dan has since gone away. Anyway, I wish him well. He went to South Carolina. Anyway, getting off the subject. They were talking about the other day of the homeless issue in Portland. When I lived here in the 90s, I was homeless. I've been homeless 3 times, and the last time in Portland by myself for 6 months.
Jeez.
And I ended up moving to Seattle. That's why I moved to Seattle, was to get off the streets. I had a friend that lived in Seattle that let me crash on his couch, right? In that time, I had graduated from broadcasting school. I was a local DJ in town. I had literally 3 jobs. I worked 7 days a week,
amazing.
right? And I couldn't find a place to live. I was sleeping in doorways at Denny's, and every now and then my dad would let me hang out at his house, and then I'd sleep on people's couches or whatever, right? In the 90s. And there were issues about affordable housing, about homelessness, because you'd go down to downtown Portland, and where Old Town is, there was always, and that's back when most of your homeless people were Vietnam vets that had mental issues. Many of them had drug addiction. That's when the people who were living on the streets really had some issues that needed to be addressed. And then there were those of us who just couldn't get it together for whatever reason. We weren't making enough money. So when KGW, I'm coming back around to this, when KGW started doing the homeless, focusing on the homeless and why people are homeless and all of the complicated issues around rent and work and wages and homelessness, there are more families on the streets today, by and large, than there are drug addicts, mental illness people, or anything like this. So I had tweeted a comment about, I think we are really looking in the wrong direction here. Instead of trying to find ways and beating on the Portland City Council, there's many things to beat on them about, but instead of beating on them about homelessness and lack of response and all of these things, because they're working hard. Metro's bill was passed, and they're building small communities and trying to help people get off the streets as soon as possible, and now there's another program trying to take over for the original. Anyway, I was like, we're focusing on the wrong problem. Instead of focusing on the homeless situation, homeless people, we need to start focusing on the greed. Okay? Rents are up over 300% across Portland. That's Portland, right? Rents. In fact, when Chloe Daly went into the city council, the reason why she was elected to the city council was to do exactly what she did, which was make it mandatory, to make no cause evictions illegal, and give a tenant 90 days to move out. If you were going to give them less, you had to pay to relocate them.
Yeah.
Perfect. I would call for rent control. And the reason why all of this happened was because people rent were being raised 200 and 300%. And that's uncalled for. When your minimum wage is $12 an hour, and the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment is $1,200 a month, which I used to pay in 2015. My husband and I lived in Clackamas, and we were paying $1,100 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in 2015, right? When I left, I was happy to come back to Portland. After 20 years, I was coming back to Portland. I thought, I'm going to move up to where I used to live in southeast Portland, up off 162nd and Stark. And when I first originally lived there, I paid on 122nd and Stark, I paid $460 for a two-bedroom apartment. Right? And that's why I was raising my kids and going to broadcasting school. And I was the welfare mom, but I was trying to get everything pulled together. I had a part-time job, paying $600 a month for daycare. I mean, it took everything to make this happen, right? And that's a long story about that. But when I came back for that same size apartment, I think we had a 3-bedroom apartment. All of a sudden, it's $1,200 a month. And I'm like, how does that happen? And the area had deteriorated like crazy. The area was nothing like it was when I left. And so I think we need to focus on the greed of property management companies, the greed of not so much construction companies, but the greed of landowners and property owners. Because when they started saying, buy this house, it's a great investment for your retirement, people started thinking, I'm just going to rent it out and have that subsidize my income. And then as the house value increases, when I'm ready to retire, I'll sell the house for $1 million and that's my retirement. Yeah,
I mean, that's really the way a lot of people think.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, so they are, instead of, because that now their mortgage is higher, right? Because they're obviously paying them another mortgage plus the mortgage on the house, and maybe they've taken 2 or 3 mortgages on that house to sustain their current lifestyle. Now they've eaten up all of their retirement, so they're making the people pay 2 and 3 times what they should be because the market, do you know that the market is an arbitrary value?
Oh, right. There's no such thing as the invisible hand, like the Adam Smith myth.
No. No, it's like this house across the street might only actually be, in today's money from 1960 when it was built, may only be $100,000, $200,000, but somebody's trying to sell it for $6,000. Because they decided that that's what that house was worth.
Yeah.
And so that increases all of the other houses in the area. It's an arbitrary value.
Well, yeah, and I know a lot of people in the real estate business who have talked about how the supply side has been bought up by corporations.
And it has,
and investors, international investors too, just to make the price high. Even buildings and houses that no one's living in. So
they're called zombie homes, many of them. And what I just found out the other day, and I didn't realize this was happening. I knew foreign investors were buying a lot of the properties across the nation. There are American companies doing that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They're buying up these houses, and then and I always wondered about that because you see these signs, I'll pay cash for your house.
Yeah.
Oh, really? They buy up these houses and then they resell them to consumers with their own financing. So I mean, they've basically, I'm not exactly sure how that, I'd have to find more information about how that actually works, but it sounded like from what I was watching, this was a show, and they were doing like this expose on this company, and they go and they pay cash for the house, and they find somebody to buy it for whatever amount.
Yeah.
So they're taking up all of the houses on the market and reselling them.
Right.
For a profit.
And see, this is where you really hit on this, because it's not like there's a shortage of places to live. It's like there's not a shortage of food, and yet there's hunger. There's not a shortage of places to live, and yet there's homelessness.
Yes.
So there's something systemic in our entire process, that we have houses and yet we have homeless. We have food and yet we have hunger. So we're definitely not doing it right. I mean, when we're talking about, the Constitution says that we need to form a more perfect union, not a perfect union,
more
but
perfect.
we're definitely, I mean, we're not doing it right. We've got houses, and the people need to live in. We got food, people need to eat it, but we're not connecting up the houses with the people. We're not connecting up the food with the hungry people.
So what would be a strategy that you might think of, living here and knowing this area the way you do?
Well, it seems like the only solution is to go back to our system of laws and recreate the kind of legal system that we had during FDR's New Deal, where things were working for working families. The rules of the game were more user friendly. I mean, the rules of the game are written for politicians by corporations.
Yeah.
And
Now,
and they weren't then.
Right.
So really, we need to go ahead and rewrite the rules of the game so that people have access to housing, so that people have, people can't, we have artificially low wages, people aren't making enough money, and we have artificially high housing costs.
Yes.
So you've got people who can't afford to live. We've got people who can't afford to live.
And that's been going on since the 70s, I want to say, since Nixon.
And these are the conservatives. They like to say that they're, right to life, or they, they love, and yet once a person is born, then life is cheap.
Yeah.
It's
like whatever.
It's like life is cheap.
No, what they are is pro-birth.
Yeah.
They're pro-control over women's bodies. I did a video about that the other day. They're totally pro-birth. During FDR's administration, when the New Deal was being ratified, wasn't there a huge disturbance in Congress about whether it should be, even the pieces of it even be legislated? So like when the welfare construction, the Social Security, the social safety net that he implemented and wanted put in place. And wasn't there, as I recall, like the conservatives said no, and they were battling against it, and it was a highly contested piece of legislation.
Well, the conservatives have one goal, and that's to justify selfishness and greed. And all they want to do is over-concentrate wealth and power. For the last 40 years, Bernie Sanders has been detailing specific ideas and plans about how to fix things. And people just won't do it because the people in power resist that. And the people who can, benefit from that, we the people, are not getting the information and the education that we need to go ahead and fight it. We're getting misled and lied to by so many different politicians and corporations by the news medias that we just can't really. It's so frustrating because we know how to do this. We know how to fix the problem, but we lack the political will to do it. I mean,
why?
Because we can't get people into our governing process who are not beholden to big money. If we had our government run by people, or if we elected people who actually were beholden to working families, we would get things done. But
Yeah,
right
I
now,
agree.
we've got people in Congress at the state level and the national level that are beholden to their donors, millionaire, billionaire donors. They're the ones that tell them, dictate public policy. And so as long as those people are in control, nothing's going to change. We really have to get money out of politics.
We have seen an increase in candidates stating and Patrick's one of them, and Schrader, and this other guy that's trying to go for Congress. He's got a great story, but we're seeing with every election increasingly people vowing not to take big money.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like you say, if you need $750,000 just to get on the debate stage, you know, and
So is media perpetuating it?
It's well, sure, because I mean, if you're Channel 12 or Channel 6 or Channel 8, and your budget, your accounting department depends on millions of dollars coming in every election cycle from all these campaign things, they're not gonna resist. They're not going to, go out on a limb and say that we shouldn't have big money in politics, because that big money in politics goes to their TV stations, goes to their radio stations, goes to their newspapers.
Right.
I mean, those millions of dollars that Kurt Schrader gets from drug companies. Kurt Schrader buys advertising time,
right?
And so, so the company that gets that money from Kurt Schrader, why would they even think about fighting against big money in
because they've
campaigns?
been convinced that that's the way it works.
Well, no, they like it because it keeps their thing going.
It feeds their agenda, yes. But what if we starved that agenda?
You mean stop the money from flowing in?
Yeah.
You would have to have politicians who make that a law. You'd have to have somebody put forth a law in Congress and say that you can't have this kind of money or that kind of money. You need control. You need meaningful campaign finance reform so that big money can't influence politics. But the thing is, if you cut all that money out of politics, then all those TV stations that depend on that money are going to say, well, what about us? We depend on these millions of dollars coming in. This is our budget.
Okay, and
yeah,
and we have social media now. We have websites. We have independent journalists, independent activists. We have people who they can come to and get their ads played for a quarter of what the television station has, and with an immense amount of more reach.
This morning I'm
a social media manager.
This morning I was flipping through the channels and just to get the weather, and so I'm on Channel 12. It's a Fox News affiliate, right?
It is.
And there's 3 commercials by Kurt Schrader in like an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that all that money that Kurt Schrader's
on a Fox
big
outlet
donors had spent on that goes to that company, and that company likes that money coming in.
Right.
And there's no reason for
but
that company.
But that's only because they expect it. Now, what if they didn't expect it?
But they do expect it, and it's there.
It doesn't have to be. That's what I'm saying.
We could make a law against it.
There is. Measure 107 passed with 80% of the vote, as even Patrick's the one that acknowledged me of that, or told me about that. And then what that did was offer Congress, our state Congress, the availability to pass these laws, which people have been trying to pass, and they continually get dropped.
Well, basically, like I say, the little media companies, the little social media things, they're not going to make a dent because, like I say, you've got ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox.
They're network affiliates, and how many people watch TV anymore?
Well, for some reason, they're still getting their message out there because people are still buying it. People are still believing all the stuff that they're saying.
That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy. But I would venture that in the 2016 election, 2015-2016 election, being a social media manager and being a digital marketing professional for like the past 10 years, I saw things across the digital landscape that if it was just social media, if social media was not affiliated in these elections, we would not have ended up with Trump, largely. 2, we would not have ended up with the catastrophic election season that we had in 2016 and almost had in 2020. Luckily, the social media outlets learned. I would argue that some of the media companies learned. I would also argue that some can still learn some things. And at least three came out of that fiasco that are going to be worse in the future.
Yeah, well, the thing is, what are we going to do? How are we going to get the laws passed that benefit the people instead of keep passing laws that benefit the corporations? How do we go ahead and limit corporate power over our lives? How do we keep our basic lifestyles dictated, public policy dictated by corporations? How do we get we the people to go ahead and say this is how we want our lives run, this is how we want our political process run, this is how we want crime handled, this is how we want homelessness handled, this is how we want hunger handled.
This is where we can learn from all the Trumpy people and the Freedom Caucus. Okay? So instead of going out there and exploiting our selfishness, we go out there and exploit our ability to help each other.
Yeah.
We actually protest for these things that we want, like the Tea Party did.
Yeah.
Right? And the Tea Party got, like, what, 50 crazy people put in Congress?
Yeah, but they also
Some of them are still there.
But see, they also had big corporate backing. They weren't grassroots at all. The Tea Party was co-opted by corporate.
The Koch brothers stepped in, but when it first started out, it was very grassroots.
Yeah, when it first started, but as soon as it got going, the big corporations took it over because they realized that this was the perfect front that they needed, to counter off all the liberal progressive stuff that was going on with the...
I mean, what is their motivation behind that? I mean, you don't live on an island.
Well,
you don't live here by yourself. You live in a community of people.
Remember Grapes of Wrath by Steinbeck, that great novel, American classic. He had that one line where he said that a lot of the poor folks in America don't recognize themselves as poor. They consider themselves just temporarily embarrassed millionaires. So
okay.
This was from Steinbeck in The Grapes of Wrath.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. So basically, people think that in their heart of hearts that they will be a millionaire someday, and so they don't want to punish millionaires and things.
What?
I know, it's crazy. But people are, this is, like I say, this isn't from me. This is John Steinbeck.
No, there's another attribution to that, and on the right.
Well, and also there's a lot about that whole rugged individualism thing about how I can do this all by myself, and and I don't need anybody's help.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh, I don't want the government to control me.
No, the government doesn't control you. Corporation controls you.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, yeah, and that kills me too, because they'll sit there and say, we want freedom. We want the government to stay out of our bedroom. We want the government to stay out of our business and everything.
Yeah, but you want General Electric to be there.
Exactly, but we want to control your life. We want to control whether you believe you're a man or a woman. We want to control whether a woman has jurisdiction over her body. We want big government as big brother. That's not free.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not. I'm sorry, big government as big brother is not free, and that's where you come into your communist and authoritarian governments.
Well, the thing is, like I say, if you have checks and balances where the people who are running your government are responsive to the people. They're not right now. They're responsive to corporations,
Yeah.
the people who pay their bills,
Yeah.
the campaign donors, the donor class. Bernie calls them the donor class. You know,
And
they're
they
the ones-
are.
You know,
They
I
are.
mean, if you spend millions of dollars on a political campaign, then you expect something back.
Yeah.
You know, and if
Yeah.
you don't have millions of dollars to spend on a political campaign, well, then you're out of luck.
Right.
You know, because
Right.
they're not working for you. You know.
But how much does a normal person pay in taxes over their lifetime?
Oh God, what's normal, right?
Right, right. Well, in each tax bracket.
Yeah, but see, you're paying taxes on gas. You're paying taxes on
No,
on
I
your
mean
telephone.
our
and-
federal taxes. We
Federal
have federal,
taxes, yeah.
state, and sales, right? And the transportation goes into our state taxes.
Yeah,
But
well,
we do get some federal funding out of
Yeah.
that too. But that's why I'm saying, how much in federal taxes do we pay in our lifetime?
Well, we pay a lot, but I mean, you know, it's only the working families that give till it hurts. It's
Yeah.
it's the uber
My
wealthy
point.
who don't who could give millions and millions and never feel it because the money would come right back.
Right.
So it's not like a situation where, you know, it's not like church where people give till it hurts, right?
Exactly, exactly. Well, see, and that also, my issue with the taxation for representation, okay, so business is 55, corporations in 2020, I believe it was 2020 or 2021, did not pay off their 2020 taxes. 55 corporations paid zero taxes.
Right.
So why are they represented? No taxation without representation. You didn't pay taxes. Why are you being represented?
Yeah. Well.
Why are you using our roads? Why are you using our labor? Why are you using any of the things that you are offered in your communities if you are not paying taxes?
You know,
And you have representation in Congress.
You know, it's really funny. This is kind of it's a kind of a divergent point for me as far as my liberal cred goes, because like personally, I wish that there was no such thing as corporate taxes. I don't think corporations are people.
No, they aren't.
I mean, I think people should pay taxes.
Yes.
And so when you've got corporations that aren't paying taxes, and then you've got their top corporate executives
That aren't paying
and
any.
their major shareholders
Right.
who in a lot of cases aren't taking a salary, which would be taxed at 30% or so, and instead they're taking capital gains if they decide to sell anything
Which
at
is
like 15%. So
Yeah, 13
so
to 15%.
so basically, yeah, it's the people who run these corporations that should be taxed, and they shouldn't get away. They shouldn't slide through the capital gains loophole. You know,
Right.
they should be whatever their income is. I mean, Elizabeth Warren had the wealth tax idea. I mean, the people who have money, the people who have the wherewithal, should be contributing to our society to make that better union, to make that more
That's
perfect
true.
union. Instead, we're getting them. They're getting off scot-free, not paying
Yeah.
anything, and the people who work hard are getting penalized because they have to pay the taxes for the roads. They have to pay the taxes. You know, people, working families are
Yeah.
paying everything, and
Yep.
they're giving till it hurts. And the people up on top, the 1%, you know, are paying a little bit when they sell stock. They pay a little bit in capital gains,
Yeah.
but that's about it.
That's it.
You know, they really are excused. It's like a monarchy where you say, well, the kings, you know, like CEOs now, like king CEO, you know, what's the difference, right?
Right,
It's just, you know,
anymore, yeah.
But it's like we don't pay taxes, we collect taxes. You
Yeah.
know, so you little people
Yeah.
pay, we collect. Because the
Right.
funny thing is, you know, if you listen to hate radio talk shows like Liz Larson, every
Yeah,
now and then
God,
for
I
an,
can't stand
for an
that man.
exercise, in my car, I'll listen to his show once in a while around the afternoon.
I
And
tried.
well, I have to listen to it because I need to, you know, understand where he's coming from. And when they say things, they come out with numbers like, well, you know, the top 10% pays about 80% of all the taxes
I've
or whatever.
heard that, and that's a lie.
It's all bullshit. But even if it was even true, and this is the funny part is, even if it was even true, the money that the uber wealthy and the 1% pays out in taxes, well, the funny thing is they own corporations that the government has to buy stuff from. Government has to buy insurance. Government has to buy contractors. Government has to buy gasoline. Government has to buy electricity. And it's all buying from these companies and these executives who owned. So all the money that the government has to pay out goes to them anyway. It's not going to some welfare queen in Chicago driving a Cadillac like Reagan used to talk about.
I know.
Remember that mythical.
And there's been like 5 of those types of people caught in 30 years.
Right. So government is spending money not on working families, not on poor folks, but they're spending it on the billionaires and the oligarchs.
Yeah.
That's where our government money is spending. And so, they might be paying a little bit of tax, but they're getting everything back.
Yeah.
Whereas we the people, what are we getting for our taxes? Are we getting healthcare? No. Are we getting solar energy? No. Are we getting homeless people off the streets? No. All the money that we're spending into our government with our tax money is going to oligarchs and billionaires through their companies.
Yeah.
So it's just insane.
As a last discussion, the guy here in Oregon City, Thielman and Dan Tooze or whatever it is, Tooz. He's a Republican for the 40th District. He is a Proud Boy member. And the Republican governor, Thielman, Thielman.
For where?
He's here in Oregon City. He's trying to run for governor. He's a Republican. He and Tooze had a mutual speaking engagement. So, and that's representative of the Republican Party and their partnership with right-wing extremists. So that's another aspect of things that we have to look at. How do we make that more pronounced?
Boy, that's just crazy. I mean, how people can get behind that white supremacist stuff. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, and it's very close to home for a lot of people. I'm watching the clock this time. So what can we do to keep people to move the extremists out like they used to be? Because that's something else. Out of everything that people say, oh, it used to be this way, it used to be that way. While we did have some serious issues with racism during Martin Luther King, and it's not even just Martin Luther King, it goes back 400 years,
lynchings,
all the way to today. Today, there have been 12 across the country, black people found in trees, and the cops say that it's suicide, and I'm sorry, one was an 80-year-old woman. And so where I'm going with this is, yes, we've had racism, we've had systemic racism all the way up and down our government, our society, everything. Your right-wing extremists like the Proud Boys are saying, oh, this isn't racism, it's not socioeconomics, hate
what the hell
or
is
anything like this. We just want to live by the Constitution. Do you know, I looked up Dan Tooze, whatever his name is, Tooze, I believe it is. I looked up to see if he ever served in the military, because I was a military contractor for 10 years on two different military bases, one Army and one Navy. I know a lot of military people, or have throughout my time. I don't know of any of them, maybe, scratch that, I know maybe 20 people in all of the military people I know that have ideas close to his, saying that he's working to fight for the Constitution and real freedom and all of this other stuff, and that's what the Proud Boys are all about. And I'm like,
that's clearly not true.
No, you're not. I'm sorry.
The
Have you ever served? And I Googled him to see if he served. I didn't see anything. Nothing about whether he served or not. And if you are running for an elected office, state, federal, or whatever, in this day and age in the United States, you're going to advertise that you ran or that you were in the military and what you did to some extent. I mean, there's security, but to what you did and where you went and everything like this, there's nothing.
Well, you know, like when they talk about the Constitution, it's just a red herring because they don't know what the Constitution is.
They don't have
care
any
about
idea
it.
what it says.
I mean, really, the preamble is pretty simple. It's about a more perfect union, provide for the common defense, provide for the general welfare. You know, it has absolutely nothing about white supremacy.
And that's what kills me about Republicans, because they fight against every element of the foundation of our founding fathers and the documents that they built as 35-year-old men.
You know, and the funny thing
building a nation.
The funny thing is the Constitution was written so well, and it gives the freedom to the people to decide to do what they want, to make whatever kind of government they want. And so it's really funny because the Constitution says that we can, if we want, we can set up an economy exactly like the King of England did, where you have a pyramid-shaped economy, where you've got concentrating wealth and power, and the little guys are screwed and stuff. That's perfectly legal. Our Constitution says you can do that. But the Constitution also says that we don't have to do that. The Constitution says that we can create an economic system that is fair, just, and equitable. It says that we can create a more perfect union for everybody. And the thing is, when we do try to put speed bumps in our process so that we don't over concentrate wealth too much to where everything falls off the table, anything that we try to do to slow down over concentration of wealth and power is labeled communism.
Yeah.
Every time we say, well, look, we really need to slow down we need to have a progressive tax system. We need to have a safety net. We need to do things that don't over-concentrate wealth. We'll say, well, anything that doesn't over-concentrate wealth and power is communism. So we have to over-concentrate wealth.
No, we don't.
And really, that's what the kings and the monarchs always used to say.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to concentrate wealth at the top because you're just a working person. You don't need anything. You don't own anything. It all belongs to the king. And the CEO has the same attitude. It's like, hey, the corporation owns everything. All you do is work, and we pay you a little bit, and that's it. And this is really, it's all about over concentrating wealth.
That's why I stopped and own my business now.
This is now this is, I know it's getting short on time, but if you look through history and you look at the rise and fall of every empire, every single empire has done the same thing. They've over-concentrated wealth, and it all worked out fine until they hit a point. Every empire got to a point where they got so much wealth at the top that it was like the board game Monopoly or a poker game where pretty soon nobody else can play anymore.
Yeah.
It's game over.
That's where we're going.
It's game over. That's how
going.
every empire fails, is that they always over-concentrate wealth and power, and then there's just nothing left for anybody to play for, and it's game over.
Give me 2 seconds. You have been watching Progressive Talk Radio on TV at Willamette Falls Media Center. My name is Sherry. This is Mike Gardner, and he's from Oregon City. And I am just so happy to have him here with us. If you want to come down to Willamette Falls Media Center, they're located at 1101 Jackson Street in Oregon City, 97045. They have Studio A is where we are. They have a podcast suite. They have, I have to take you on a tour. They have Studio B. They have a commercial kitchen. They have editing. They have classes. They have cameras. They have shows like you can do your own show. You can do your own podcast. You can have guests in the podcast suite. You can run a commercial kitchen, everything like this. And it's getting 5 minutes till. Final message.
Final message. Damn it. It's all about us. It's we the people, and it's not about the corporations. Corporations are controlling our lives through the money that they pour into our political process, and we need to take back our political process and get the money out and support politicians, good politicians who are trying to do this. Patrick Starnes is trying to do this. Jamie McLeod Skinner. We've got Mark Gamba running. We've got Charles Gallia running. We've got Travis Nelson running. We've got a great, wonderful candidate running for Clackamas County Commissioner, Libra Ford. Please vote for Libra Ford for County Commissioner in Clackamas County. That's my final word. Libra Ford for Clackamas County.
Thank you for sitting with me. I really appreciate you being here. This almost wasn't as entertaining. I want to thank everybody. Marv is our engineer guy. And Moses, thank you for letting me sit in for you. It may be that I'll be sitting in for a little while. So please go on Facebook and we're Progressive Talk Radio on TV on Facebook. Leave messages. Let me know what you think. If there's anything you want to talk about, leave it there. We also have a YouTube channel, Progressive Talk Radio on TV on YouTube, where this was probably streaming, I hope. If not, it'll be on tomorrow, and I'll be sharing it around to the page. Marv gave me a thumbs up. It was streaming. So yay, fun stuff. And you guys, I'm sorry nobody was able to call tonight. The phone was out, but we will have it back next month. I'm usually the camera person or the co-host, so I'm not sure what the schedule is. I do know that, I believe it's July. They take July off. I'll find out more about that. But please, let us know what you want me to talk about and what issues are on your mind. And I'm usually talk. Keep your fingers crossed for Judge Brown to get confirmed. Yes. I think we're on that.
I think so.
And they're starting to talk. Trump has been out and about doing his rallies, and he's backing now. He's backing candidates who are going against the people he used to back.
Yeah, well, it's all show.
It is. It is. That's a TV show.
It's a reality show.
It really is. Yeah. And Ivanka Trump testified in front of the January 6th committee today.
Jeez.
And apparently Jared did last week. So that's hilarious. Yeah. The Trump train hasn't stopped, and although, as I understand, he is losing popularity in the Republican Party.
Well,
So I'm not seeing quite so. I do still see some flags around for the Trump train stuff, but very few anymore.
Oh, I still see them up at Albertsons, the high schoolers with the Trump flags and everything. They showing up there, and stuff. So yeah,
that is sad.
It's very sad.
I'm really worried about the next generation, but I have heard a lot of young people. Devin in the Oregon Progressive Party is very young. I forget his last name, but he's very young and he's very bright. And he's very much a progressive person. And he was going to be my guest, but he couldn't make it here, and that's why I asked you.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to ask you anyway, so I just didn't know if you'd say yes.
Well, like I said, this is the first time I've ever done this, and so I apologize for not being
all
notes
good.
And all ready and stuff, but just going like stream of consciousness stuff. I know
that's
it's kind of
crazy. That's usually how
so.
I end up here too. You guys carry me. I always find guests that know what they're talking about.
Well, like I said,
because I'm a host, I ask questions.
Well, cool. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
I'm trying to, now that I know, I'm doing a little bit more of this.